When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, die-in time is here. That's right, we're talking about Silver Bullet on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Tarker's Mills, Maine. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 1985's Stephen King's Silver Bullet in the hopes that a townsperson's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust who knows an ancient armorer. Well, let me take that again. There's only one person I trust who knows an ancient armorer of Arthurian legend to make a silver bullet for me. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I mean, I don't know anything about bullets or handguns. I'm definitely going to have to take the launching a firework in the general direction of a werewolf and hope that I get it.
But that's the thing about bullet makers in Maine. They all kind of know how to do it if they put their glasses in the right way underneath their chin.
True. That is a Maine secret.
It's in the sauce. They've got mosquitoes, they've got lobster, and silver bullet makers. Jesus Christ, I really fucked that joke up. Anyways, I don't want to scare you, Gina. We're not alone. That's right. We have a special guest. Now, you may know him as a writer of note from all sorts of publications, but his passion project is Certified Forgotten, a writer-owned independent horror publication providing a platform for thousands of 21st century horror films that are often overlooked by mainstream publications. The one, the only Matt Monagle. How are you doing today, Matt?
I am doing okay. And you know what? I'm doing better because I'm so used to hyping my own publication that hearing somebody else run through all the things that we try and say about Certified Forgotten, I was like, oh shit, that sounds like a cool, I want to support that. And I'm like, wait, I do. I own it.
I'm going to be down for that. And you're not alone over there. And what I do enjoy about what you guys do is you pay for people's work, which I always love. And you let people run with their passions about stuff. It's generally not a lot of directed hate at things, but what I like about this piece of cinema.
Yes, and we are known for turning down pitches on all of the Hollywood greats. So if you pitch us on a Wes Craven movie, a John Carpenter movie, something like that, odds are we're going to respond to you and say, thank you, a little too big for our britches. We're waiting for somebody to pitch us on some film that played at the South Florida Film Festival once, and that was it. That was the entirety of the distribution it ever got.
Well, those movies need to be talked about too. I assume you guys aren't very deep into the cinematic efforts of Dan Attias because this is his only movie. Not that he stopped working. He just became a TV guy. He's done hundreds of hours of television and is quite good at it. In fact, he wrote a book about it. But this is his only film. And, well, we'll get into the details later. But Matt, what was the first time you watched 1985's Silver Bullet?
if you'd asked me this a week ago, I would have probably said, oh, it must have been when I was 12, 13 years old. The answer is never. I have never seen this film before I sat down to watch it for the podcast, which was such a delightful experience because I feel like I carried a bunch of 80s Stephen King movie baggage into it, and all of it was just washed away in pure werewolfy joy.
It does have werewolfy joy, although I will say, and we'll get into the details about it later, the werewolf, I think, is in parts the least best part of it. And I mean just the design, just the execution of it. And we'll get into why. There's a legitimate reason. There's a person to blame. But I think everything else kind of has this sweet Amblin era veneer to it that I found myself enjoying, because the last time I'd watched this was when I was working in a video store in high school, and I was going through the horror section from A to Z, and I hit Silver Bullet. That's the reason I watched it. And I came out of that viewing, perhaps it was not what I was looking for at that time of life. And I'd always kind of carried that attitude forward. And upon watching it this time, I'm like, listen, it's not great, but I think this is above it's fine. But then again, I'm about to talk to the it's fine expert, Gina Rancliffe. When was the first time you watched Silver Bullet?
I am pretty sure this was a rental for me as a teenager. I liked it. I've always liked it. I think that it is a pretty underrated King adaptation. I like that you pointed out that it has a kind of Amblin feel to it.
Yeah.
Because I think it really does amp up the loss of innocence, the nice small little town that is infiltrated by evil, which of course, that's Stephen King's thing.
Yeah.
But also, like, he also enjoys the idea that the town has always been evil, and and that it just, the chickens are coming home to roost. Here, this is an invader. This is this creature has come, and it is slowly making its way through this nice little town. And I think it's a very solid adaptation of what's also an underrated, for me at least, Stephen King novel.
Yes. And that's the thing, is that unlike a lot of the books that we're covering, I was able to fire through this bad boy in an hour, which you can do because there's barely anything to it. Before it was a graphic novel, however, this particular lycanthrope was born by a calendar company looking for an interesting hook and reached out to illustrator Barry Wrightson, whose work in the horror spaces and just in comic books in general is pretty legendary. And they had the idea of combining him and Stephen King with the hopes that they could create a 12-part short story that would be told in a monthly format in calendar form. King loved Wrightson's pictures, felt like once he started to write it, he had more to say than the space provided in a calendar, and they kind of left the calendar element behind and decided to make it more of a novella with some fun graphic pictures in there to illustrate.
Yeah,
so that's how you get Cycle the Werewolf. Emphasis
on the graphic.
Yes, Wrightson knows how to draw gore, and the illustrations he provides in Cycle the Werewolf, pretty fucking amazing. I mean, point to the bad Wrightson work. Even when he was drawing illustrations of National Lampoon's Class Reunion, they were good. So imagine how great these are.
Yeah, they've got that nice 50s horror comic look to them. Mm-hmm. It's just really just adds to the whole the overall vibe they're going for.
Yes, and when adapting any sort of work, you kind of have to take what will play best for the medium you're adapting it to and leave behind the rest. And while this hews, pretty closely to the sort of formula of Cycle of the Werewolf, obviously they felt like they couldn't give it a full year. It felt more believable to be a series of attacks over the course of 4 months, which I will get. And because the full moon lasts more than one night, we get multiple werewolf attacks next to one another, which I think works better for the format of a movie. That being said, Cycle doesn't really worry about having a main character or digging too deep into any single townsperson of Harker's Mills. Most of the people you meet in the book are meals waiting to be consumed. And yes, Stephen King makes sure to point out who in town is fat, the worst character defect of all time, who is secretly beating his wife. This time it's a librarian. And how dangerous it is to be a pig farmer. It's lean, it's mean, and Silver Bullet does a good job of taking what it needs from the book and leaving the rest behind.
Yeah, I would say that if you have not read this or seen the movie, if you like Salem's Lot, you'll like this.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of it's up. They're both up a piece.
Yes. And because Cycle the Werewolf is so spare, it's not recycling a ton of material. I mean, sure, some of this is going to sound very familiar to you, but it doesn't wear out its welcome because it's so brief. Now, Matt, have you ever consumed the Cycle of the Werewolf novella?
I have not. And I feel really bad about that because I had every intention of digging this one up. And then, life happens and
sure.
you're like, oh, I have 2 hours until I'm supposed to record. Now I know that I could have done it in the 2 hours.
You could, you could have piled through it.
I've seen the artwork in places before. I mean, I think even if you're just sort of a casual consumer of horror content online, you've probably seen the painting of the cop having his jaw ripped off.
Exactly.
The front seat of the car. So it's one of those things, as my wife and I always like to say, we have a cultural awareness of the short story because you've seen the artwork,
sure.
even if you don't know that it was from this particular Stephen King novella.
And you kind of get the idea. Over the course of a year, a werewolf attacks a town, and slowly but surely they realize that whoever the perpetrator is, it might not be a who, but a what.
Emphasis on slowly. Not so much surely, emphasis on slowly.
Yes. It seems even more ridiculous in the novella than it does here. Here, no one at any point, with the exception of Marty, goes, I think it might be non-human. Everyone else is, this has to be a guy. And there's like zero evidence to it being a guy other than reality.
Yeah, like literally people's heads are getting ripped off and they're just like, well, must be a very strong man.
Yes. Even though at one point, 3 or 4 witnesses see an attack and decide this is something I'm keeping to myself for whatever reason.
Yep.
But if there's a King adaptation in the 1980s, you all know without me having to say it who is involved. That's right. The man who coined the term, the monkey die, the people cry, Dino De Laurentiis himself. As previously discussed in connection with Dead Zone, Cat's Eye, Maximum Overdrive, Dino had a weirdly prickly relationship with King's work, even though he really liked Stephen King and felt like his stuff was a moneymaker. But I would say he didn't always have the best instincts in terms of who should tell these stories and how they should be told. Which gets to a component of this movie I had never heard of previous to my research, and that was the first writer-director of Silver Bullet was supposed to be Phantasm's Don Coscarelli.
All right.
Now, I think that's a very good pairing of anyone who could really make this work in terms of a story about a kid encountering the supernatural and pairing with a sibling and an older semi-relative to combat it. The writer-director of Phantasm would be your dude. But the longer they got into this process, the less Dino cared for Coscarelli for whatever reason. And even though he had kind of started to direct some of the werewolf attack sequences because the finished effects, the werewolf suit was not finished yet, so they were trying to Jaws this. He just had no faith in Coscarelli, and he dumps him and goes with Daniel Adidas. See, there's my last name problem again. And he came on late. He's a TV director, and this is his only movie. For whatever reason, he was really connected to the story. He really loved the actors who were already cast, and he just kind of went for it to try to make this happen. And I would say it's really good. I don't think it's great, but again, I don't need it to be great. Really good when it comes to werewolf movies is pretty nice.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there that the fact that it is anything more than fine is pretty remarkable.
And
there's a fun anecdote in Coscarelli's book, and I say that as if I've read his book. What I've read is the news aggregator that covered the original news story. It covered the excerpt of Coscarelli's book, so don't give me too much credit. But apparently, when he was going to De Laurentiis with notes, they asked Stephen King to do a pass on an earlier version of the script. And King apparently wrote 2 very nice pages where he said, here's everything that's wrong with the script right now. Here's maybe some changes we could make. Stephen King gives you notes on his own adaptation. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And apparently De Laurentiis threw it out. And that was the moment when Coscarelli knew that he was not going to work with that guy for much longer.
Right. Yeah. It makes sense. Thank you for telling that story. Cause I just don't think that De Laurentiis truly understood what makes King work. He knew that they made money, and he knew that keeping King happy was a good thing in making more of these adaptations, because his popularity is through the roof. In a time where people didn't worry so much about IP, King was at that point becoming very much the name in horror fiction. But he also just didn't trust his storytelling aspects, and anyone who agreed with him sort of got a target on the back. That being said, the script that ends up here is only changed in drips and drabs. One of the big ones being the decision to make the voiceover of Jane older, and a decision to make the film inexplicably set in 1976, even though no one dresses like that, nor does any of the background necessarily reflect 1976 specifically. There's no bicentennial stuff happening when it comes to 4th of July, which you think people would mention if this is 1976.
Yeah, there just seems to be this time change seems to exist for this framing device of the sister, who is really a minor character in the book. I mean, not that there's any huge major characters other than maybe Marty.
Yeah, but
she is now a pretty significant supporting character. She's the narrator.
Yes,
and is looking back at it presumably from adulthood.
Yeah,
and kind of implies that Marty died at some point.
I mean, that's the thing. Why put it back in 1976 if 76 isn't going to be that big of a deal? And also, she could do the same thing and saying that she is the older version of this character. I don't need to know if it's 5 years, 10 years, 25. Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter in the end. So the decision to go so hard on 76 as to put it up front in the movie and then do no backup whatsoever.
The filmmakers really want you to know that everybody in this film died before they got a chance to see Star Wars. That's incredibly important to the narrative.
Not only did they saw Jaws, but they didn't see Jaws 2, and you can feel that in their performances. And we have teased it, but let's get into it. Speaking of the werewolf suit, it was initially going to be more of a lithe puppet. But once again, Dino De Laurentiis strikes yet again and wanted more of an intimidating look. So this setback delivery from famed Italian creature maker Carlo Rambaldi, and this has to go up there with one of his most phoned in designs. When he gets struck in the eye with a firework, the mood I get is stretch out teddy bear. It doesn't really seem like an intimidating werewolf. Whereas at other times, it seems to be a much cooler design when photographed properly. I really don't know which way to go with it. Just at times, it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, it's a little bit of to bring up Jaws again. It's a little bit, maybe you should have kind of kept this in the shadows.
Yeah, yes, and there's as it goes on, there's a real Jaws quality to the movie as it goes forward. It almost feels like they timed it out to the rhythms of the 75 Jaws. And you're like, okay, you can feel like they're pacing it in a very deliberate way. That's something I appreciate. But yes, they very much should have kept a lot of the werewolf way more under wraps. And the reverse transformation, which seems to be a very, like, Silver Bullet invests a lot of time in demonstrating that to you, I think is a more impressive feat than ever seeing the werewolf full on. It's not as impressive as you want it to be.
It's a little bit of a letdown when you revisit the book and see how visceral the werewolf looks in the artwork.
Yeah, I mean, very few people have been able to provide a full Barry Wrightson level werewolf on screens. I think almost the one that comes the closest is Dog Soldiers, but werewolves on screen, it's a great cinematic tradition. And it turns out to be one of the hardest fucking things to accomplish.
To your point, I mean, most of the film, they should have just kept Everett McGill in like various phases of fatigue and huge bags under his eyes and maybe a little bit more hair than he would normally have. They do this in-between piece between the Reverend being fully human and fully a werewolf really well. And they didn't need to go for a full transformation as often as they did.
Okay, now you brought up Everett McGill. I really am impressed by this casting, because if there was any actor in the 80s and 90s that I would have been convinced was actually a werewolf,
right?
It would be Everett McGill. A little bit of a aside. Have either of you ever seen Everett McGill's Wikipedia page? And the picture that was chosen to be used in it. For some reason, he looks like he's about to strangle the photographer with his bare hands. I've never seen anybody have such. I mean, he looks like he's on like a con panel. But he's just got like his eyes are narrow, like he's just like staring daggers at somebody. And this, I invite you to look it up when you get a chance, because it's like that's a man with murder in his eyes. And yeah, that was kind of other than Twin Peaks, which he was one of the few truly upstanding citizens of Twin Peaks. He always played this guy who seemed like he might kill you if you turn your back on him.
Yes, that picture on Wikipedia looks like he's looking at Ron actor activist Silver's IMDb picture, where he looks like someone just invited him to meet their wife, and it's a sheep.
Yeah, he's definitely not sanctioning anybody's buffoonery in that picture.
That's 1,000% true. Yeah. Yes, and at one point, Dino De Laurentiis had it in his mind that Everett McGill had to be in the suit. And McGill's like, I really don't want to do this. This isn't what I signed up for. Reverend Lowe is what I want to play. It's a really juicy part. I don't want to sweat in a fursuit. And I think there are moments where you can feel that. Just underlying in the performances, how soon can I get out of this? It doesn't help that the suit's barely articulated in the face. It kind of looks like a mask rather than a werewolf. And considering that this is a few years after, The Howling and American Werewolf in London, when you say I'm going to bring a werewolf to the party, people are expecting a lot. And unfortunately, that's the one area where I don't think this movie delivers. And that being said, it really doesn't cover the overall, grandiosity or feeling of the movie for me. I think it has a lot to offer.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned, and way more sales have happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
All right, steak lovers, this one's for you. You know that moment when you slice into a perfectly cooked, melt-in-your-mouth steak? Pure magic. And that's exactly what Heartland Steak Company delivers. Hand-cut, Midwest-raised, premium meat, straight to your door, because you deserve the best. Growing up in Kansas with a butcher for a stepfather, I learned what real quality beef looks like. When Heartland Steak Company sent me their steaks for my honest opinion, let me tell you, they absolutely delivered. They know their craft, and it showed in every single bite. Build your perfect steak box or grab a grill-ready bundle. Either way, you're getting top-tier flavor. And here's the best part. $25 off any order of $175 or more. Just use promo code WOMEN at checkout. So go ahead, treat yourself. Head to heartlandsteakco.com, load up your cart, and don't forget, promo code WOMEN gets you that $25 off.
Let's get into some of the details that are on the screen rather than behind it. And what better way to start than the following paragraph from Cycle of the Werewolf. The wind whoops and howls, the screams begin. Something inhuman has come to Tarker's Mills, as unseen as the full moon riding the night sky high above. It is the werewolf, and there is no more reason for its coming now than it would be for the arrival of cancer, or a psychotic with murder on his mind, or a killer tornado. Its time is now. Its place is here, in this little Maine town where baked bean church suppers are a weekly event, where small boys and girls still bring apples to their teachers, where the nature outings of the Senior Citizens Club are religiously reported in the weekly newspaper. Next week, there will be news of a darker variety. I take you now to spring 1976, and our werewolf is stalking somebody. But it also sounds like the werewolf is wearing scuba gear for some reason. Why is it breathing like that? It's breathing like a latter-day Jason Voorhees, heavily and in an unnecessary manner. It is mentioned in Jane's voiceover that, quote, this town cares about itself and everyone cares about each other. And I doubt that from a Stephen King town.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say that's unlikely.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier in comparison to Salem's Lot. Obviously, Harker's Mills is not on Salem's Lot's level in terms of really bad stuff in the background. It's got enough. It's got a smidge. It's got too much. In terms of my, I really don't want such people around. But it's also not everyone cares so deep. We don't really see that. We're told that. But I do think that pushing Jane, not all the way into the center, but just allowing her to have a bigger role here is an interesting tack. And because she's so underserved in the book, like her entire purpose in the book is to call Marty a booger and say you get everything you want. And she has no wants, no needs. She's not a part of the plot. She just is. She exists to be mean. And here we get layers of her.
Yeah, like she's kind of, she's sort of like, it turns it almost like the Hardy Boys.
Yes. Absolutely. And it brings to light the sort of prickly relationship that her mom, Nan, and Red have with one another. And it comes across a lot better. It brings depth to the story. And I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, it's also, if you're even if you're having Stephen King write his own Stephen King adaptation, right? Yeah. There are things that you can do that make it feel more like closer or farther away to King's style as a writer. And it's a small thing, but having an older character look back on something that happened in their childhood that foreshadow a terrible thing that's upcoming and kind of give a wistful sense of they remember the good and the bad before the thing happened. That's a great framing device for audiences to be, oh my gosh, this is a Stephen King story. Like, I feel the Stephen Kingness of it by having this character reflecting on horrible things that are about to happen. It's a shortcut. It gets you there quicker than, all of the world building, all the character development you might do. But it's part of both a literary and a cinematic language that we understand equates to Stephen King. And so that voiceover for me, the first thing that I thought when I heard that was, oh, okay, somebody got this. Like, King understood how to adapt himself. The director understood what this should be. Like, this is a Stephen King story because it's doing the things that a good Stephen King story should do.
Yes. And I think it helps that there's the source material is so bare that you can add something to this and fill it out in a way that the novella doesn't really have time or desire to do. If this was a full-fledged novel, you can see a lot of these choices coming to bear over the course of a 400-page novel. So I really enjoyed those additive elements, probably because the skeleton remains, really great. Our first character who dies is out on the train tracks. He's not in a snowstorm like Cycle the Werewolf, but he does get his head cleanly removed from his body. Whereas February's Lonely Heart's death from the book is replaced with this woman committing suicide because she has a very shitty boyfriend. And at least we don't have to hear about how she's overweight and thereby a terrible person. So it's got that going for it.
I do wish they left in the detail about she had a bunch of Valentine's Day cards that she sent to herself signed from like Robert Redford and John Travolta and Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley a kiss. That's the one thing we need. We just need one Ace Frehley framed 8x10 in the background. That's all I need.
And it would have worked for the 1976 setting.
Yeah, that would have worked. We are but months away at that point from the Kiss defeating the Phantom of the Park, as we all know, the greatest piece of art Kiss was ever involved in.
Of course.
So later we go to a bar that is owned by great 30s, 40s, and 50s actor Lawrence Tierney, and he's just got one of those faces. Like a sigh of relief comes out of your body, like, okay, I see a real professional on screen. I'm relaxing. This guy's got a mug. I know exactly what his deal is.
He's just punching a werewolf in the face. I'm sorry.
Yes.
He's like, what do you fucking mean, a werewolf? And just like, fist right in the snout.
I refuse to believe that Lawrence Tierney's character dies at this. I just, between him and the Peacemaker, who could possibly live through a werewolf attack? I believe Lawrence Tierney, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get to that eventually. And then at one point, Marty, after school, rides home because he's got the Silver Bullet 1.0 version. It's got a motor, but it's not fully decked out yet. And he rides home with a girl whose dad is a complete shitheel, which is very rare for a Stephen King property. He's really mining new territory.
Yeah, I was going to say, what next, bullies?
we are missing a leather-clad bully here.
Yeah, I think this is pretty bully-free.
Yes.
Well, because it's set in 1976, it would have been too late for leather-clad bullies, right? Modernizing.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Christine has some leather-clad bullies in it.
Fair, very fair.
Christine has bullies who appear to be, I don't know, they have a first and second mortgage and they're still in high school.
Yeah, they're all collection of Vinnie Barbarinos.
If you had a second mortgage, you do whatever you need to do to get through the day. And if that means beating up children, more power.
That means you have to stab a yogurt with a knife. You do it. Anyways, we're going to get back to this girl's, that's Milt, who's the shitty dad, and the daughter is Tammy. We never see Tammy again. For whatever reason, they move out of town. But Milt will catch up with. Later, we get a foreshadowing of Marty's gas management in the Silver Bullet 1.0, and he manages to just coast into the local gas station. And he has a tete-a-tete with the gas station owner who, when he's not doing this, is warning teens they shouldn't go into the woods because they'll never come back out alive. And he goes through this rigmarole of, should I check the oil? Should I do this? Should I do that? What is the driver's bullshit level? I don't know. What is any driver's bullshit level? What is this turn of phrase I've never heard before? I think for a long time, I personally had discounted Busey in the role of Uncle Red as mainly an opportunity for that man to ramble in his very unique style. But what I think the movie does so much better than the book, which again casts him as kind of just a lovable lout who has a little too much money, is more of a damaged Vietnam vet undercurrent to it. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, I was going to say, like, just like I would, absolutely cast Everett McGill as a guy who is probably a werewolf.
Yeah.
I would also definitely cast Gary Busey as a slightly insane Vietnam veteran.
Right. And I don't know how he has the accent he has and he acts the way he acts, but his sister does not have any of those affectations whatsoever. But again, I'm not coming to silver bullet for reality. So who fucking cares at the end of the day? What I enjoy about this performance, and particularly the relationship he has with Red and later with Jane, is that because he carries this damage around with him and he's not really sure how to deal with it, he connects with Marty in a way he can't really connect with other people. They're not between the two of them always given the fair shake due to issues beyond their control. So Red doesn't treat Marty just as a kid in a wheelchair, and Marty doesn't treat Red like he's a constant fuck up like Nan does. And that's how they relate. They don't have to say it in words. They show that relationship between the two of them. And that was probably an element I did not appreciate when I first watched it in my youth.
Yeah, it seems strange to call this a gentle Gary Busey performance, as if such a thing can ever truly exist. but to his credit, I mean, this is my nephews, I don't have kids, but my nephews are starting to get a little bit older. Mm-hmm. And you find yourself that distance of, I'm not in their lives constantly, but when I show up, I'm aware of how they see my place in their world. And they see, I see myself through their eyes, and it makes you think, oh, how do I want to act? How do I want to be? What kind of, what sort of manhood do I want to demonstrate for them? Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of that, especially in the quiet moments of Busey's performance, that honestly, this is, after seeing him in 1,000 films where he plays the Under Siege, the Predator 2s of the world, this was kind of it reminded you of why he became, a famous actor in the first place. That yes. There was a period of his life where he was doing this and doing this well before he kind of fell into what a lot of directors would go to him for.
Yes. And, he also had the accident that I think altered the way he comes across, and it just seems wilder than it does here. And so it is nice to have that. Just, it's not that he's calm. It's not that he's, toning it down. It's that it's focused. It just feels a bit more naturalistic. And not that I don't enjoy the ones where he turns it up to 11. I absolutely do. Mm-hmm. But it's an element that seems very grounded in his character's relationship to Marty. And I really, really appreciated it this time. Conversely, I get that his sister Nan is over it, but she's so worried about Red being a bad influence that she has a real hard time considering the emotional benefit that Red provides Marty. Like, all she can see are the things she wants to change. And what she can't observe is how they relate to one another and how they enjoy one another's company on a one-to-one basis. They just are allowed to be themselves, and that's how they enjoy their time together. And I think that's important for any kid to kind of have that relationship with someone who's not your direct parent, who you kind of feel safe around. And Red, despite constantly giving Marty motorized vehicles, which he never wears a helmet during, is safe around Marty.
Well, those were the days.
They truly were. 1976 you're referring to? Of course you are.
Mm-hmm.
Good. When we return to Milt, he's watching wrestling. He's drinking old-fashioned tubby beer bottles. Kel's surprise. Milt's accent, speaking of accents, is also variable. He's using every slider on the accent board at any given point he's on screen. I'm not sure where he's from. I'm not sure where he's going other than the grave. He seems to make his living with pots. Is that I'm having a hard enough time making a living. Is this something I should go into? Just housing pots?
Just the pot industry, but not the fun kind.
Yes.
I assume he does something with electricity because he has that line where he says, I want to electrify everyone on welfare in the United States.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
Like there must be some sort of journeyman skill set there that's untapped into.
Sure. Yes. It's good to see that we've come so far from 1976 to this moment here where you're definitely not hearing that online every time you click there. Anyways, I enjoyed very much that Milt dies in a greenhouse, something we rarely get to see here on the show. But when it happens, it's generally a good one. The last time I think we saw it happen, Gina, was in Slugs.
Yes. While the Aloha song is playing.
Yes. I forgot the musical accompaniment of that man cutting off his own hand with a rusty blade because he can't think of any other way to get the glove off.
Yeah.
Anyways, Milt gets yanked down through the floorboards of this fern-filled greenhouse, and on the way he gets stabbed in the chest by a floorboard on the way down. I'm not sure this counts as a get bunked, Gina.
No, because I think it's sort of just accidental. I think it's only a get bunked if that is intentional.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I might have just made up that rule right off the top of my head, but
someone who's paid more attention over the last 9 years than us, please let us know whether that qualifies as a get bunk. But he then gets mangled more by a werewolf. Hopefully, parts of him eaten while he's still alive, because I just like his character. I think he's a jerk and a bad person, and bye. The next morning, we get a newspaper headline that in and of itself does not take the cake, but the other components of that newspaper, hold on to your hats. The headline, Maniac claims another victim, police investigation yields no clues, town shaken. But that seems in tone with what is going on in Harker's Mills. But then elsewhere in the newspaper, you see on the front page, mind you, African section of the zoo is open. What zoo? We'll never know.
I was going to say, like, how much else is going on in this town that they have anything else to report on but other this maniac on the loose?
The film does us a good service at the beginning where they show the town gathering for a speech, and you can count the chair. They put out like 47 chairs. Yeah. So however big this did, and that is them overestimating the turnout by a not insurmountable margin. So yes, they have an equal number of animals in the zoo as they do townsfolk.
Yes. My other favorite tidbit on the front page of the newspaper, everyone, is that a new episode of The Scarecrow and Mrs. King, a show that everyone watched in 1976, is going to be on CBS.
Wait, this is a front page?
This is a front page. It's right next to the African section of the zoo is open. It's one column over.
We used to value arts criticism.
This isn't even criticism. This is news that a new episode will be airing. Below that is what's airing on PBS. But I really got stuck on The Scarecrow and Mrs. King being front page news. So,
well, normally it is always a slow news week in Tarker's Mills, but also there's a maniac tearing people's heads off and disemboweling them,
and the investigation yields no clues. They don't even find all the hair this werewolf must be leaving behind,
and the town is shaken. Don't forget to mention that.
It's even better if you think canonically within the world. There was a journalism meeting where they're like, what should we bump from the front page? And somebody was like, if you bump tonight's episode, I swear to God, I'm walking out. Do something else.
Listen, people
Have some respect for the arts, God damn it.
People keep asking me, a reporter at this local newspaper, when is Scarecrow and Mrs. King airing? And I keep telling them a full decade from now, but they won't listen. We have to put it in the newspaper.
I do like that they mentioned that, you know, town is shaken. Like, you know, like there's any other like response they might have to you know, a murder on the loose. You know,
town ambivalent.
Town mildly perturbed.
Town thinks maybe African section of zoo should get involved.
Town asks, but what about Scarecrow and Mrs. King?
Town asks, have you considered my penis? But no, none of those things. We get that they're shaken, and it's understandable. You know, Brady, who is Marty's best friend, is the kind of kid who just likes to hold on to things, whether that be snakes or kite strings or afternoons that bleed past dinner and into nighttime and get you killed. Like, dusk does seem like the last time flying a kite would really be fun or even feasible.
Yeah.
There's a song by R.E.M. called Night Swimmer. You know what no one has written a song about? Flying a kite at night.
That town only gets 20 minutes of wind every day, and it happens to be at sunset. How dare you, sir?
But it doesn't even appear to be sunset when it's happening. I mean, it seems to be, it's summer. So like it's dinner time. I'm assuming 6-ish. Even I'll give you a 7. But the sun goes down that fucking quickly after Marty and Jane leave that I've flown a few kites in my day. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but the activity has occurred. And I've never once had been in the middle of it and had so much fun. The activity is so enjoyable that I mistook the moon for the sun.
But I will say that this is something we talk about sometimes on our podcast. The idea that if you can remember a shot from a film, it is like visually, it is above average, right? It is. As long as there's something you can hold. And I am going to think about that one shot of the gazebo at a distance with the yellow lighting kind of pooling around something that's too far away to see, but we know to be the body of that kid. Somebody was like, I'm only going to get to do my thing once on this whole goddamn movie, and I am going to light the shit out of this gazebo scene. It's so pretty. It's such an interesting visual shot that kind of, I almost wish they just left it there and didn't have the father go up, because you look for those moments and you know when you see him where suddenly you're like, oh, art. This is art.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And I also love the shot of Sheriff Joe walking towards camera with the blood-covered happy face kite.
Yes.
That's haunting. You can legitimately tell this is something he's never wanted to see and now has been forced to. Terry O'Quinn just wears that guilt and frustration and pain of a child dying under his watch. And there's also the subtle secret Stephen King universe thing that we have a smiley face on the kite, which of course is also I believe the button that the man in black wears in The Stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if this was on purpose, but smiley faces are also a motif in The Howling.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely true. So yes, I don't know where exactly they're pulling from, or if it was even intentional. Someone said, this kite looks like it's 1976. Either way, it's cool, but it is a very haunting scene. That being said, when it comes to Herb, the father of this unfortunate boy's screams, maybe a take 2, maybe give that another whirl.
Yes. That kind of loses its dramatic impact a little bit.
His screams like, oh, and listen, again, I don't know what my reaction would be to finding my son shredded to ribbons, but I don't think it would be that. And also, we don't have to hold on it. one scream is like more than enough. I don't know why we hold on it for as long as we do.
It does give a vibe that, if it were me, I would go home and be like, yes, I know that our son just died, but like, was that a weird scream? Did
I sound weird?
I'm feeling a little self-conscious about my son died scream.
Yeah. And yeah, at no point does anyone ever suggest that the possibility of an animal committing these deaths. Why? It happens throughout the book. So it's not like no one ever brings that up in the book. But here they never go, maybe a wolf or a wild animal, a cougar, a panther, a tiger is loose in Maine. No one ever says this out loud. They're convinced it's the dude. So the locals decide it's time to have personal justice and head out there with a bunch of shotguns and take matters into their own hands. And not that I'm not a fan of vigilante justice. For the record, I love it. But how exactly are any of these local yokels going to know who is the maniac when they happen upon them in the middle of this magical darkened forest? Would that maniac be wearing a sign? Perhaps they're still wearing the jumpsuit of a mechanic they killed a few towns down.
I mean, I would assume that they are looking for, anybody who just doesn't belong. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Yes. Which is, mentioned. Sheriff Joe does mention that vigilante justice is essentially one step towards mob justice, towards lynchings. Something no one in the room really seems to discount for longer than 30 seconds. Lawrence Tierney is kind of like, he may have some points. And then Herb's like, no, go out there and kill this person. And so they all run out there to do it. And of course, one guy completely pulls I'm Johnny Knoxville and this is the bear trap.
Yep.
The joys of a 15-year-old.
Whatever you're doing for the episode, good luck.
But Gina, when I told him that someone had suggested on Patreon he come on to talk about his first time watching The Thing, he's like, so you're saying I'm famous? I'm like, well, you're famous on our Patreon. I don't know.
We've gotten positive feedback from non-patrons as well. All those episodes do well.
Yes, they do. What were we talking about again? Oh, yeah. That someone gets immediately bear trapped. Why are there bear traps in the middle of the forest here?
What I'm curious about is, in this little, mostly rural town, why they're all out there like it is the first time any of them has ever set foot in those woods.
It's very, very true. Because they're being led by Andy, who is many things. He's the owner of Severe Mutton Chops. He has a big mouth, but a leader of a posse, I would not peg him for. He is bad at this. And at one point, one of the group declares to either their wife or mother that they've shit their pants. What is the relationship between those two? Are they married or is she his mom? A great aunt? A dowager? Are they in love? I don't know.
Probably not anymore after that.
No. It's a rough first date if that's what that is. Three of these dipshits get their shit jacked. It's real unfortunate. And we slam cut to Reverend Lowe giving a eulogy for 3 coffins. And then as he discusses the community coming together, it turns out that this is a monster mash. It's a graveyard smash. They all become werewolves to some degree. And I think it's about 14 too many werewolves. They've got 3 good ones.
I was going to say that this kind of reveals that not everybody looks cool turning into a werewolf.
Some people look like they're they're driving and they need to get to a bathroom, but they don't know when they can actually stop.
Also bald men with mustaches look very silly turning into werewolves.
This is true.
They tend to become orcish, where perhaps meat is coming back on the menu.
They go through a phase. They kind of look like they're in a sort of second tier metal band. then they transition into orcs.
Yeah.
But it does have, even before they transform, it does the really cool shot where each row is swaying in a different direction, which is honestly more off-putting than any of the transformations that happen immediately afterwards.
Yes. And that's one of those things where you can feel its roots in a Coscarelli script, where I think he would have been able to, if there's one thing Coscarelli can pull off is a dream sequence. Mm-hmm. And you can feel the director here trying to get that flavor, not completely succeeding, but also not failing outright. This movie's good to great. So, I might pick here and there, but ultimately it's a good time. But I do wonder, and it is addressed in the book, but not so much here. What are the state authorities doing that is more important than the near constant murder in Harker's Mills?
I mean, probably doing security at the Scarecrow Mrs. King convention, obviously.
That's right.
We're proud to announce that 10 years from today.
It's like the Olympics. They have to get all the venues in place. They have to,
Listen, security for Bruce Boxleitner does not come cheap, okay?
Right. The Boxleitner hive, you don't want to cross them.
Yeah, you don't mess the boxies.
It is weird that this 2-person sheriff's office hasn't cracked the case of a wild maniac unafraid of guns.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think at this point, the FBI should probably be coming in to help out with this.
Yes.
But Tarker's Mills is an island unto itself.
Yes. Our dipshit in chief has currently called out the National Guard to stop people from smoking on their front porches. But a wild maniac who's ripping people to ribbons in Harker's Mills, I think they can figure it out themselves. They've got 2 people in that office. We're getting to our reveal here because Red has been secretly making something specifically for Marty, and that is Silver Bullet 2.0. Before the reveal happens, though, we do see that Red is wearing boat shoes, and he does not seem like the boat shoes type to me, but maybe that's just the way it was. And let me look at my notes. 1976. Mm-hmm. It should be noted, however, that Red is making incremental changes in his behavior. He has stopped drinking at family functions. He has figured out a way to improve Marty's life, and he has stopped being such a burden to Nan. These are good things. We are seeing a journey in his life.
Snaps for Ed. Snaps for Ed. Good job, Red.
Listen, we love to see it. We love this journey for him. Not for nothing, later that night when Marty comes down from his 2nd-story bedroom, which, again, why is his bedroom on the 2nd floor? It is revealed that he's able to lower himself with this metal structure on the side of the house, which can only be there for him to climb down it. And so apparently Marty has the arm strength of a Navy SEAL. And I'm telling you right now, I would not be able to sleep through that crotch rocket taking off in the middle of the night, but no one in the house even bats an eye when he takes off in this thing. And he goes out to a local abandoned bridge and lights off fireworks, much as he does in the book. In the book, he blinds the werewolf in one eye with a batch of fireworks that all go off at the same time. Here, it's what is that, a Roman candle rocket? I don't do fireworks. Here's one of the things I don't fucking do: fireworks.
Yeah,
fuck you.
Yeah, no. I will watch them from a safe distance.
Yes, yeah.
But I am not setting them off. Maybe a sparkler. That's about it.
Right, exactly.
I'll watch a good drone show. Don't get me wrong, but I don't.
Yeah. I just I'm not personally participating. I had to load fireworks at one point for a job I had, but that was Waterworld. What we did on that atoll stays on that atoll. What I do on dry land is my own fucking business, and as I'm done with fireworks. So This is where the werewolf looks like a teddy bear with a growth spurt. It's not the best look. But it does now tell us that this killer is one eye short of a full pair. And Marty decides to share that with Red, who does not believe him, and later Jane, who just so happens to be going around the neighborhood to collect bottles and cans and, gets through the entirety of the day, never seeing anyone in an eye patch, which this is the one part that I feel like it might not be good, but it might be great sequence. Because every day player who stares straight down the pipe of the camera is giving the weirdest fucking look they could possibly give the camera. All of them look like they're smelling a fart. It is just truly odd. And perhaps that was the instruction they were given. For all I know, it is
it's
off-putting.
like look annoyed when this teenage girl comes to your door and asks for recyclables.
But everyone looks at her like she's wearing a meat suit. It's just very, very odd. But this resolves itself when she delivers her full load of bottles and cans to Reverend Lowe, who just so happens to be one eye down of a full pair.
Can we also really quickly pour one out for Andy, who leads the world's most inefficient posse, gets at least 3 people killed, and then the last time we see him in this movie, he's just getting a shave and taking a nap. That's it. That's his arc. He's like, oh well, those guys are dead.
Listen,
that was poorly thought out.
Yeah, that's my bad. Look, I can't help but feel somewhat responsible.
He lost his connected mutton chops to mustache privileges. And so it's time to shave that bad boy off after leading 3 people and one guy who shit his pants to their deaths. I believe the guy who shit his pants lives, actually. But Lawrence Tierney's Peacemaker is brought back to the werewolf den for some reason. And of course, Jane sees that, knows that Lawrence Tierney would never be without it. And then she sees that Reverend Lowe is, he's the guy. He suddenly has an eye patch that he didn't have the day before. So listen, I know in the book, Lowe does not remember anything that happens when he's in wolf mode. He only really actually knows that it's Marty who's sending him notes when Marty says, and by the way, I'm Marty, asshat, kill yourself. He finally puts his name and address in one of the messages.
But still once he secured all the individual letters out from the newspaper, I assume. So
yes,
purely anonymous and signed.
Yes. But now Lowe seems to, has put 2 and 2 together and knows he has to do something about it. And once he gets the eye patch, because Everett McGill has a kind of face, he looks more like a bounty hunter who can only make it through one last job.
Yeah. Like I said, I buy him more as a werewolf than as a small town pastor.
I agree with you. In the book, he's more of a mousy guy, but I also understand that at this point in the movie, he's really delivering the goods of, oh shit, he's willing to kill a child. That being said, I know Lowe isn't a seasoned killer in broad daylight, but again, broad daylight's a bad time to commit homicide against a kid in a wheelchair. And it goes about as well as you would think. Not well at all. In fact, he implicates himself in the crime so much that even Red believes that Lowe happens to be involved here. So he goes to Sheriff Joe, says, this is what happened. He goes, I don't believe he's a werewolf. And he goes, well, I don't have to make you believe he's a werewolf. Just believe he's involved. Go investigate. And so he does. And it takes him all of 2 minutes in the middle of the night, Gina. Why are you investigating a werewolf at night?
Why are you going without backup?
Well, backup is one guy who's already been drinking.
I mean, I think they have to work 12-hour shifts in order to make the whole thing work. So it's, there is no backup.
Yeah. But of course he finds the silver bullet paint on the side of the silver bullet paint on the side of Lowe's car. And so once Lowe shows up out of nowhere, like a real priest out of the fog, just constantly hiding in shadows. Listen, priests hiding in utter blackness to surprise people. I can believe it can happen more than once. It's just weird that it's happened to us twice in a series of months, Gina.
And yet I feel like the Reverend in The Fog, there's more of a classic like vampire move to come out. But he's not actually he's not a monster. He's just a person.
No, he's just a weirdo who is drinking in a dark corner of his own church. But this is when Lowe automatically is triggered to go full wolf, and he busts through his clothes. And that made me wonder, how many priest collars is Lowe running through in any given month?
He's just got like a cardboard box just filled with them and like a shelf in his closet.
He just rips right out of those clothes. Like, how many sets of shirts does that dude own? It must be sending him to the poorhouse.
It's tough because the more people you kill, the less donations you get on Sunday, the fewer of those you can afford. It's sort of a vicious, whatever the opposite of an immaculate or virtuous cycle is. He's running out of money.
Well, it's just a cycle of a werewolf, I think, what it comes down to. Of all the deaths from the book source, Sheriff Joe's was the one I wanted to see recreated in this movie. And unfortunately, we don't get it. It is rated R. Like, you can rip the side of this dude's face off. I really would have loved to see that. But that kind of gore isn't really what Rambaldi does so much. So I think
if we gotten like a Rick Baker on this, we would have had like heads flying,
exactly,
guts falling out, and it really would have lived up to the full spirit of the book.
You really need a Savini to amp up your human body damage level here. I think that's the one thing I'm looking for and not getting. But this attack in Sheriff Joe disappeared is enough to dislodge any sort of mental blocks that Red was having about the possibility of there being a real werewolf. And so he decides, okay, you know what? Yeah, you donate your silver necklaces. I'm going to go get a silver bullet made. In the book, it's 2. Here, we only have enough silver for 1. And they decide to hole up after sending off the parents to a made up weekend in New York for 2. And the werewolf then decides to arrive a little after 3 a.m. and takes out the breaker box of the house, which conveys the idea that a werewolf knows what electricity is.
Well, I mean, I think he's got some human motivation. I mean, he knows where Marty lives.
Yes, right. Yeah. He can follow a map. So, yes, that's true. As opposed to the one in the book where he's, much more of he's driven to the point where he just sets himself up with staying outside the house until he turns into a werewolf and then figuring, well, I'll just attack in that mode. But we get a lot of Michigas. It does turn out, however, that when it comes to surviving werewolf attacks, Gary Busey is very good here. He just, I guess, his Vietnam training allows him to survive multiple werewolf
I was going to say, he's seen some shit, man.
He saw some shit in the bush, and so that keeps him upright. We have a lot of Michigas when it comes to the bullet flying out of his hands and, of course, going down this little grate, and they have to reach in with their fingers and everything. And I'll just say, I'm not one of those Gen X people who has this grand fondness for everything Corey Haim has done. But between this and Lost Boys, I think those are truly very good Corey Haim vehicles. He's very good in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's always had a very, little brother quality where the audience is immediately on his side.
Yeah.
And even to the point where they're kind of protective of him, which of course, made his premature death so extra tragic.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's hard to imagine, oh yeah, he was like my age. And like, but he always seemed like someone just a little younger. And he really plays that off well here.
Yeah. He brings a lot to the table. He never seems too Hollywood kiddish in this. And that's, I think, a place he got to eventually in his teens when he wanted to rebel, when he wanted to change his image and stuff like that. He just becomes faker and faker. It's a weird affectation of aging on camera. Anyways, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, so we don't really want to dump on that. We want to remember the good stuff, like him in this movie, and how he manages to nail this werewolf in not only one eye, but two.
Yeah.
He's just that good of a shot without any training. Of course, the werewolf is very close. It is leaping at them. So the werewolf it knows what a breaker box is, but it, again, is unafraid of guns.
Well, how is he supposed to know they had a silver bullet?
That's true. He knows nearly everything else. He at least knows that they know he is a werewolf. He refuses to believe they would take any precautions for whatever reason. Then we get a very nice Scream-esque jump scare of him jumping back to life before he dies again. So I didn't remember that from my initial viewing. I'm like, hey, I enjoyed that very much. And any other final thoughts we have about 1985's Silver Bullet?
I think it breezes right by, just like the book does.
Yeah.
I like this sort of vignette style of storytelling. I think it's a nice, spooky little story. It's probably just scary enough, but without a lot of gore to keep a young teen's interest if you're looking to introduce them to horror movies or werewolf movies in particular. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's is it the greatest movie of all time? No, but I do think it's a little underrated as far as King adaptations go.
Yeah, I don't think it's one that people turn to often enough to have anything other than their first impression. And I think if people were to revisit it, they might find themselves liking it a little bit more than they initially, believed.
Yeah. If you don't remember much about it, give it another shot.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
I'm, first time watch, I have to say this kind of shot to the top of my Stephen King adaptations. Really just liked the tone, the balance, the slew of veteran character actors that make it work. But probably the thing for me that makes this movie sing the most is as a former Catholic turned atheist, religious horror is the thing that I need in my life at all times. And it's not, it's not some grand pronouncement. This doesn't show up on any list of like the greatest religious horror films. But the idea of a priest who commits evil because he knows that, the alternative is to kill myself and I can't damn my soul, so I'll kill other people. And that's more fine in the grand scheme of things. That's a fun morality. That is a fun religious, violent worldview to sort of tease out, especially given the last 3 decades of the Catholic Church.
Sure,
and that's fun. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm glad that you said that because having not read the short story yet, I didn't know that. The idea that he doesn't remember in the book what he does when he's transformed, the fact that he does in the movie adds such a richness and such a damnation to that character who justifies. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't kill a kid normally, but can't kill myself, so I got to kill you because eventually I'll make all of this right in the eyes of God. I could have spent a lot more time with that character unpacking that. That's one of my favorite damned priest portrayals I've seen in movies in a long, long time.
Yeah, he only really gets one big monologue, unfortunately.
True.
But yes, I agree with you. The other thing I agree on is that we should choose our own death venture. That's where we decide of the on-screen death scene in Silver Bullet. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? Up forbid we have full-on decapitation down by the train tracks. Or you can get torn to shreds in your bedroom, but you're on lots of pills already. Or you could get pulled down into the sub-basement and speared by a floorboard and then torn to shreds. How about torn to shreds while flying a kite? Ripped across the back, then thrown into a tree. Have your face ripped off from the inside, beaten to death by a werewolf, or mauled by a werewolf in a shitty garage. And Matt, as our guest, I turn to you to go first.
I am going to go all the way in on the pregnant Stella Randolph's death because it's not necessarily, hey, in terms of movie deaths, just getting gored by a werewolf is not the most exciting thing. But if you think about the fact that she was, in her belief system, this close to eternal damnation, and the werewolf plucks her away from that and sends her to, who knows, somewhere else. Like that is the best worst death, or the best like consolation prize any horror movie death has ever gotten in the history of the genre. So I want to be like headed to hell and like, turn the wheel over, end up in purgatory, live there for 1,000 years. I'm going with Stella.
Okay. That makes sense to me. How about you, Gina?
Refresh my memory. Does the guy who steps into the bear trap get killed?
Not to my awareness. I believe he No. He is the one who gets his face ripped off from the inside.
Ooh, no, I don't like that. I was going to say, because stepping into a bear trap definitely seems like something I would do.
Yeah.
But I don't want my face ripped off from the inside. Well, I mean, can I just get like shot with a silver bullet? Does that count?
Oh. Sure, absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely true. I forgot to write that one down.
I think I'd have some fun being a werewolf. So I think I'm gonna take that.
If you survive to the sequel, you can be sort of a Zatoyachi werewolf, double blind, just wreaking revenge through the hillside.
Exactly, just working by sense of smell.
A Brooklyn werewolf in Manhattan, perhaps?
Exactly.
I like it. I'm going with train tracks decapitation myself. I like it to be over fast. And I think most people will know I would have been drinking that night. That's not going to come as a real shock to anybody. So that's what I'm going for.
And within the film makes it clear, nobody actually knew that he got killed by a werewolf.
That's true. They just
thought he randomly
was
died. So you don't have the embarrassment of getting killed by a mythological creature.
Right. The shame and embarrassment that everyone else bears in this entire movie. That just about does, Josh Hollis does all of our artwork. Go to RevengeBodyMemphis at bandcamp.com for this tune and all of the remixes of our theme. You can join us on Patreon for bonus episodes. Go buy our t-shirts. There's a link in the bio. Join us on all the social medias with the exception of Twitter. Fuck that place. And Matt, where can people find you and what you've got going on?
You can find me. I'm pretty much just Blue Sky these days. I feel like it's just the right amount of juice without any of the unwanted attention. So I'm happy there. It's Monagle at the Blue Sky chart thing. But I would encourage you, if you found anything that I had to say remotely entertaining, educational, or interesting, visit www.certifiedforgotten.com. That is the publication that I run with my friend and business partner, Matt Donato, who is an excellent horror critic in his own right. We have both the original essays and publications we do on the website, and we have a weekly podcast series that alternates between new releases and niche horror. So you can get a lot more of me and the types of things that I enjoy by going to certifiedforgotten.com.
It has my stamp of approval. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture at my newsletter, GinaWatchesThings.ghost.io. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself, for Gina, and Matt. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all gonna laugh at you.